Hello everyone, welcome to From the Star Wars Home Video Library. I'm your host, Nathan P. Butler, author of A Saga on Home Video, a fan's guide to U.S. Star Wars home video releases, which you can find on Amazon at this point. And we are now circling back, just like in the last episode, to Japan in the 1980s to look at some LaserDiscs. We've looked at LaserDiscs from Japan a few times. The Phantom Menace LaserDisc that wasn't available over here. Different versions of box sets that were available over there, in some cases that weren't available over here. The definitive collection from over there that gave the book a dust jacket. Lots of times we looked at them, and one of the more interesting things that we looked at from Japan was from 1986. That was when we looked at the so-called Special Collection. In 1986 and 1987, Japan had the Special Collection LaserDisc set, which was the very first time that Star Wars was available in widescreen in Japan. And it was these masters that were then used, once they covered up the subtitles on them, to make the first widescreen releases in the United States, in those special widescreen editions that eventually came out. But that was years later. This was 1986 in Japan, and was, at the time, the best way to watch the Star Wars films, or at least A New Hope and Empire, so that then the next year you could pick up with Return of the Jedi, which came out, as I said, in 1987. But just like what happened over here a lot, what you would find is that alongside a special widescreen release, you still had people picking up regular full-screen releases. So oftentimes there were two releases in the same year, one widescreen, one not. Over here, they tend to have the same packaging, except one of them will happen to say widescreen, but otherwise they'll be almost identical when it comes to the packaging of the individual, say, VHS tapes, for example, or DVDs later. Not so in Japan in 1986. The Special Collection was all cool looking with its white border and Special Collection up there at the top, but there was a corresponding release of full-screen editions in the same year. Same images, basically, but without the cool border. I know that it's sort of similar to what happens in the US. It's just that usually we get like a little strip that says widescreen or something, or a color change that says widescreen at the top and bottom. To have an entire border around something that says that it's widescreen, essentially, by declaring it the Special Collection, that's a little bit more overboard than what we usually see. But we looked at these in the past. What exactly were the 1986 regular LaserDisc versions, the full-screen versions, from Japan that accompanied these the same year? Well, that, of course, if I'm talking about it so much, is what we're going to be discussing this time around. We're going to look at all three films in their 1986 full-screen Japanese LaserDisc editions, starting with A New Hope. Notice there, similar artwork, but nice and large, basically. Just the artwork itself. We'll take the obi off here in a moment and take it out of the plastic case. Similar back to what we've seen before. Let's go ahead and pull this out of the packaging so we can separate the obi from the rest of it. Here we are, and let's remove the obi and look at that in a moment. Check out that really nice, pristine kind of cover. Not a lot of extra fluff on here. You got your LaserVision logo, you got CBS Fox Video up here, you got the Star Wars title, and that's it. The rest of it is just the artwork. A nice, clean look to it, which I like. The back is essentially what we've seen plenty of times before for these. Cast and crew information, CBS Fox Video, 20th Century Fox logo, pictures, description. Down here, a mixture of stats and legalese. Mostly in Japanese, a little bit in English. We have our spine there. That is a Star Wars product number, and then CBS Fox Video. Okay. And then this is, again, one that you can open up. So we fold it open, and this should look familiar to anyone who watched our last episode. The interior is the same, essentially, minus some legalese and stuff, for instance, down here, as what we saw in that 1983 Japanese LaserDisc release of A New Hope. As for the discs themselves, let's just stop and note the fact that I had to say that plural to start with. I mean, discs, that means two? Folds up, one in this side, one in this side? Yes, just like in 1983 with the Japanese full-screen release, this is an extended play release, but it's an extended play release over two different discs so that they didn't have to time compress it. So again, Japan is ahead of the United States in terms of having something earlier than we had it. That is Star Wars films on LaserDisc without time compression. They pretty much had that from the jump. So let's take a look at the discs themselves, then we'll circle back to the Obi. The discs are pretty much standard for the time. Blue CBS Fox logo up there at the top, or CBS Fox logo on blue with legalese to either side. LaserVision logo and disc number on either side of the hole with some other stats and legalese and stuff. But notice there in this case, the title is down there only in stylized Japanese, not in English this time, which I think is kind of cool. Of course, that also means that if I ever get the discs mixed up between those releases, I'm going to have to pop them in the LaserDisc player to figure out which movie is which, because I have no idea what they say. But hey, still kind of cool. Then we have the Obi, CBS Fox Video, LaserDisc, Digital Sound, which was a first, I believe, for these for 1986. Although, interestingly, even though this is the first with digital sound, as far as I understand, I actually popped this in and checked. No, the C-3PO line is not back on this version. So it does not have the benefit that, say, the 1986 VHS had in the US of having that new mastered soundtrack that Ben Burt worked on back in 1985. So even though this is 86, no C-3PO tractor beam line added back in. So digital sound. Lots of Japanese text, and then stereo, Japanese text, CLB, Japanese text, 1977, Japanese text, 3, I'm assuming it's sides, it's a Japanese symbol, I'm assuming it means sides, 121 minutes, again, not time compressed, 9,800 yen, LaserVision logo, product number. Then the actual spine of it is a Japanese title, CBS Fox Video, and, product number in CBS Fox Video. Then the back, product number CBS Fox Video, and then essentially advertisements for all 3 of the releases in this particular full-screen, individually released trilogy. More Japanese text on the way down, with the only thing in English being Dolby Surround Stereo, which is essentially a logo, so of course it would be in English in that case. But a cool release from 1986. It's a little unusual compared to what we saw in the US in that it's not time compressed, in that it doesn't have that added back in C-3PO line despite having digital sound for what I believe is the first time for Japan. And it's something that is sort of remarkable in the sense that it was being released alongside a widescreen edition, which was the first time that was happening in Japan. It would become the norm there and elsewhere, especially here in the years to come, all the way up into the 2000s. Widescreen and full screen always released as 2 different options to pick up, at least until we get past the mainstream DVD releases. Of course, to accompany that, we have The Empire Strikes Back. Again, already out of the case there, so I can pull the Obi off and show you that momentarily. Again, nice cover art here, and mostly unmarred. Just the LaserVision symbol, the title, and CBS Fox Video once again there on the cover. Similar spine, title, product number, CBS Fox Video. Similar back, cast crew information, CBS Fox Video, 20th Century Fox, pictures, text about it, mixture of legalese and stats in, a mixture of English and Japanese, as we would expect. You open it up. We have The Empire Strikes Back. And then the Japanese stylized version of that, Japanese text, just some English copyright there on the bottom. Pictures going across, Luke, Leia, Han, and Chewie on Hoth, Yoda, R2 and 3PO, the duel, Chewie, Vader, Luke in that promo shot. Lots of Japanese info here on this side. So similar to what we saw with A New Hope, except it's not all black. We have black for where the pictures are, and then, or most of the pictures. Then we have white for the sides here. I'm assuming that's actually similar to the original 1984 LaserDisc release for The Empire Strikes Back in Japan, but I have not checked that one out personally at this point. Inside we'll find the disc, but the disc labels are all pretty much the same style as what we saw there with A New Hope. And again, I said discs plural. There are 2. It is extended play, but it is not time compressed. It does have the full 124-minute runtime. As for the Obi, same style as the one on A New Hope from the same year. I would note here, though, before I put it away, something that kind of slipped my notice originally, is that you do have on the edge of one of the 2 fold-out flaps here, The Empire Strikes Back and the product number listed there, too. That was also the case with A New Hope. I just didn't notice until now. See, I'm learning new stuff while I'm recording. That's excellent. Or it shows a lack of preparation. One of the two. Maybe both. And then, of course, 1986 was notable around the world as the initial release of Return of the Jedi on home video. So we have that as well as part of this. We'll take off the Obi, as expected. Nice pristine cover. Same three elements that we saw on the other ones. Same type of spine as the other ones. Same type of back as the other one. And yes, this time I'll point it out because I did notice it. The information up there on the top edge that's very difficult to see, even in real life, let alone through a camera that's trying to focus and whatnot. It does have the full runtime, 132 minutes, because yes, it is a pair of CLV extended play discs, once again. No time compression, but in the US there wasn't time compression for Return of the Jedi either, so that isn't as notable as it was for Empire and A New Hope. The labels on the discs, essentially the same. The Obi, essentially the same. Nothing super special there. Inside, though, we have a design similar to Empire, where we have white on either side, black in the center, with most of the pictures in that center section. More than I'll necessarily go through, because there's quite a few here, because they are smaller. Return of the Jedi, and then the stylized Japanese version of it. And underneath, Japanese text. Japanese text on the other side. Picture of Lucas in this case, to go along with this last film in his original trilogy. Lastly, one thing before I would wrap this up, and that is that, unlike the one we looked at in the last episode from 1983 in Japan, the subtitles on these are along the bottom, which is considered sort of the norm these days, rather than being on the side of the screen, as we saw back with the 83 copy of A New Hope. But that's Japan's full-screen releases, all in 1986, that were released alongside that A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back Special Collection version that were widescreen. So these are more mainstream, whereas the widescreen ones were more for those discerning videophiles out there. My thanks again, as in the last episode, to Will Wright. These were items that he had in his collection that he put up for sale on eBay that I managed to snatch up to expand out my Japanese Laserdisc collection here in my Star Wars home video library. With that, we'll wrap up this episode. Thank you for watching, and may the Force be with the home video viewers.